Hi guys, it's Debbie and welcome to a brand new year, which will bring many positive changes to the world. And in relation to our community of film lovers, hopefully it will allow us to return to enjoying cinema as it once used to be. Right before the year ended, on New Year's Eve, my channel reached 30,000 subscribers. Now I know that mathematically that's just an arbitrary number, but I felt particularly touched by it. And I really wanted to thank each and every one of you. If you're watching this right now, that means you're part of it all, and that means so much. Before starting YouTube, I would see these YouTubers speaking about how they would remember the names of their regular followers, the people who were always there. And I thought they said it just for the sake of saying it. Well, now they've been doing YouTube for a while, I know that that's real, because I remember the usernames of people who have been there over the course of the years. Some of you have recommended movies which have shaped part of my channel or have shaped my ideas in relation to filmmaking. Some of you have been beyond generous with the donations. Others have recommended just the right title for just the right mood. And one thing that has particularly surprised me since posting on the web is just how far the internet can go. I think we all have this general idea of how wide the internet is, of how when you post something online it's available for everybody around the world. But it only really hits you when you click post and then somebody from Kuwait or the Faroe Islands replies and says they're enjoying your content. That's when you realise how big and powerful the internet is, the scale of online sharing. And the element that undoubtedly ties us here is the love for movies. Cinema is a universal language, an art form that is appreciated in every corner of the world. And I think what helped my channel in reaching such a diverse audience is the fact that I'm trying to open up to films which go beyond just the usual Hollywood blockbusters. There is still a ton of work to do. I've probably barely scratched the surface, but one of my objectives is to watch and study cinema from different cultural backgrounds, something which people from different communities find more relatable. So I have my computer here because you can actually pull up the demographics on YouTube. The system generates a nice spreadsheet, so I would like to have a look at who you guys are, where you're from, maybe why certain unexpected countries are more represented, what I've been watching from these countries. And if you thought you were the only one from your country, well, you're probably not. As a matter of fact, make sure to leave a comment down below telling us where you're from, so let's see if there are any countries in common. Okay, now let's pull up the YouTube analytics and buckle up because there are a lot of countries on the way. Now, the top 5 countries are kind of guessable. The first 2 countries by views are the United States and Italy. Italy is easily explainable. I live in Italy, I'm half Italian, I sometimes post videos in Italian, and anyway, on all my videos, they're always Italian subtitles. I've spoken about Italian movies, but also about general topics related to Italy. There's actually a playlist, I'll leave that linked. But the fact that I often speak about Italy explains some of the high numbers in other countries down the list, like Egypt, Romania, Albania, Tunisia, Morocco, Moldova. These might sound just like random countries I pulled up. Like, what does some African country have to do with a former Soviet country? Well, geography set aside, these are countries with strong ties to Italy. Many people from those countries have emigrated to Italy, many of them have then returned home, bringing with them the Italian language or customs. They have formed large communities here, so it is understandable that they would be interested in topics related to Italy or even Italian movies. In other cases of the numbers here on the list, such as Slovenia, you can literally just walk over the border to the country. I know Italy all looks like sun and beaches and ice cream, but in reality part of it kind of pushes into Eastern Europe. That's probably why a part of you represent a strong following from countries like Slovenia or even Croatia. I even discovered that Malta, which is on the list, has a population of 70% of people which can speak Italian. Also, on the list at one point there is San Marino. Now, fun fact, San Marino is a small country inside of Italy. It's a tiny, tiny country. And now I don't want to be the annoying person that says, well, it's basically just Italy. They are 2 separate countries, but after all, their culture is not that far off from the Italian one. The media they watch is just the same. Now, moving down the list, we have the United States. Now, the United States is a country, a huge country. It consumes a lot of internet, and it is also where many of the most famous movies come from. So that probably explains the large following. Also, I lived in the United States for a while, and I used to post videos speaking about the American culture and comparing it to the European one. That might have gathered some attention. Canada is also not too far down on the list. It's at number 6, which makes sense. Again, like San Marino, they're two completely different countries, but the media consumed is not that different. Next up is India. Now, in India, the culture of movies is very important. Indian cinema is the largest in the world by number of films produced. Indians enjoy talking about them. The actors are often considered more than superstars. Videos on the topic and trailers generate millions of views. So of course there's a lot of interest in everything film related. Also, I have often spoken about Indian films here on my channel. I have received many suggestions on your behalf. The biggest suggestion at the moment, the most recurring one, is the 2 Bahubali films. So hopefully this will be the year in which I finally watch them and speak about them to you. Also in the top 5 is the United Kingdom, where I was born. Now, film-wise, the UK and the US are pretty intertwined. Many famous films are produced half in the UK and half in the US. There are a few big studios in England which you can actually visit. Last year I visited the Harry Potter studios just outside London. It's a little expensive, but there's literally everything from the films on display. Now, still related to large English-speaking countries, Australia is not that far down on the list, and I discovered that many famous films have actually been filmed in Australia, like The Matrix. I was always aware that New Zealand was the gold mine for filmmakers. All the Lord of the Rings movies have been filmed there, along with the Chronicles of Narnia, so films which needed dramatic landscapes without suddenly having huge towns in the way. Also, New Zealand has a very diverse scenery, so you get the tropical beach shots, but then also the snowy mountaintops. So shout out to all my followers from down under. Next up on the top 5 countries is Germany. Now, to non-Europeans, that might sound a little odd, but in reality, many Italians live in Germany, and many Germans are either knowledgeable about Italian culture or they've studied Italian. They often travel to Italy. There is a lot of business going on through both the countries, so it is understandable that people there might look up information about Italy or Italian movies. If you're from Germany, let me know if what I'm saying makes some sense. Also, because I speak German, I've studied it in school for many years, I have actually spoken about some German films and series I enjoy here on my channel. As well as Germany, scattered down the list, there are some other German-speaking countries like Austria and Switzerland, which actually border directly onto Italy. There's a lot of Italian and German going on together over there. In general, we have quite a big European representation. Quite a large number of people are following from France and Holland, Belgium, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, the tiny Luxembourg. Shout out to my friends from Poland. Now, Poland is my last happy memory before the lockdown. So basically last year I went on a solo train trip in Poland. I visited a few cities. I came back home, so I returned to Italy the day after we were in that full enforced lockdown. So that was my last happy memory. Also, shout out to the Nordic followers. There's Sweden, Norway, Finland, but also Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, and Denmark. Speaking of which, many of you guys have been highly recommended I watch the Danish film Another Round, starring Mads Mikkelsen, and I looked it up and apparently it's considered one of the best films of the year, so I definitely have to watch it. Okay, we still have a lot of countries on the list. In reality, some countries can't even access YouTube, at least not openly. They could use VPNs, but I don't think that would show up on the list. So there isn't China, I don't think there is Iran, there's not North Korea. I was a bit surprised that Cuba is not on the list, because there is the internet there. I was just wondering if maybe YouTube is censored. Just let me know if you know more about this. Now let's speak about some of the smallest countries, or let's say the countries that our Western-centered world would consider more odd. Because the internet also opens up your mind to the fact that media isn't just LA or London. and that most people around the world do have internet and they live pretty similar lives to us, of course with cultural differences. And that's what watching films from other countries really helped me to appreciate. I'm really trying to learn more about other cultures through movies. For example, I would like to give a shout out to my friends from African countries like Tanzania, Senegal, Libya, Kenya, Angola, Mozambique, Capo Verde. I think that thanks to social media and the immediate and easy access to images and information about countries, people are now starting to realise that Africa doesn't actually look like those old maps where people would just write in Latin, "Here are lions." So although many of you are subscribers from countries that we would associate more to a more modern environment like South Africa, many other countries are ones which the media for years would just portray as a vast desert with a few huts. Yes, many areas of the African continent do present similar environments, and many areas suffer incredibly due to droughts, diseases, corruptions, and many social issues that could have been avoided if European countries didn't just decide to use the continent as their own personal chessboard. It's our responsibility to help as much as we can people in need, as well as accept the fact that many areas of Africa look like your average downtown, and even if they don't, they're not living in this savage way some media wants to show us. So I'm so pleased many of you are following from Africa. I've recently been getting more into African cinema. I know there are many interesting festivals out there, a lot more information to read up on. Now, one particular country where many of you are from is Nigeria, the country of Nollywood, the most prolific African film industry, as well as one of the most prolific of the whole world. I've only made one video on Nigerian movies, but because they're so fun to watch, I'll probably be speaking more about them in the future. Next up are my Asian friends. I've already mentioned my followers from India, but let's move a little further east. Quite a few of you are following from Japan, which makes me so excited because I am really into Japanese movies, whether they be animated movies or live action films. I've been watching them for such a long time. There's actually an interesting video here on my channel about why Italy became so obsessed with Japan during the 80s and 90s. Also, quite a few are from South Korea. Korean cinema is the one I'm expanding most on at the moment. I'm still watching probably what are considered the big popular in the West Korean films. There's still a lot to go, but I'm enjoying it so much. Unfortunately, I don't know if anybody is watching from China, but we do have data on Hong Kong, which is an independent region of China. Now, the whole Hong Kong-China situation would take up at least 10 videos, but I would quickly like to recommend a documentary I recently watched called Joshua Teenager vs Superpower, which is about the famous umbrella revolution in Hong Kong against the restrictions imposed by China. Anyway, I'm so pleased to see that many of you are following from Hong Kong. I'm starting to get into the 90s golden age of Hong Kong cinema, especially with Wong Kar-wai. His films were some of the best to watch during the lockdown. Moving to Southeast Asia, some of the numbers which really surprised me were represented by the huge following from Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, and even more from the Philippines. I'm really pleased and really curious to know how so many of you actually came across my videos, and also please recommend me some of the best films to watch from your countries. Now, moving across the globe, the same goes for my followers from Pakistan and Bangladesh. I know many people tend to lump all the culture in together with India without appreciating all the different nuances of your cultures, and I would absolutely love if you could send me in some recommendations of films from your countries. I would then like to give a fun shout out to my friends from countries like Bhutan, Myanmar and Nepal. These are countries immediately associated to monasteries high up in the mountains, fortresses run by monks, Pacific environments, temples and sunsets and meditations. So I find it fascinating that some of you are watching me from there. It's just the power of the internet. The same concept of somebody in a remote region of the world receiving a notification of a video of me speaking about Hamtaro can be seen in very different environments. Countries like the Mauritius, the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, the Dominican Republic, all countries which we immediately associate to tropical paradises, just silence and sound of the ocean. Okay, now for the Americas. So earlier on I spoke about some of the larger followings from countries like the United States, Canada, but if we move a little south, we have Mexico, and then we have all a series of countries which the YouTube analytics are telling me have the longest watch times, which is awesome. This means you guys don't click away right away from the video, which is great. More or less in order, we have Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Chile, Venezuela, Costa Rica, Uruguay, Panama, Paraguay, Puerto Rico, Guatemala, Bolivia, and Nicaragua. A region we're still missing is the Middle East, and the country with the most following from the area is undoubtedly Turkey, followed by the United Arab Emirates. After that we have Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Iraq, Lebanon, Jordan, and Cyprus. And this makes me pretty excited because it feels like we're united by a common passion in a world which wants to split us and create a demonic vision of the Middle East because of years of conflict and actions on behalf of groups which gave even innocent people a bad name. So again, thank you so much for following, and please send any recommendation about good films from your countries. I must also say that we have a large representation from Eastern Europe, which I haven't covered yet. So further to the countries which I mentioned earlier with a specific tie to Italy, like Romania, Moldova, Albania, we have a large presence of Russians. And then scattered across the list, we have quite a few names like Hungary, Czech Republic, Ukraine, Serbia, Bulgaria, Slovakia, Macedonia, Bosnia, Georgia, and Belarus. Again, seeing all these countries on this list makes me so happy, so excited. One, because of, just the egoistic idea of being proud of posting something and a lot of people around the world see it, but also because we share this common passion. If a great film comes out, a great popular film which is available worldwide, we're all enjoying it in our own different languages, and we appreciate different aspects of it based on our culture. Again, I am trying to learn more about other people's cultures through films, and I try to do it by films produced in that specific foreign country, because otherwise, usually if it's, for example, the United States representing Mexico, they'll do it with their own vision, if you see what I mean. Whereas made by filmmakers, native filmmakers, it's more authentic. Hopefully I didn't forget anybody on the list, so again, please let me know where you're from with a comment down below. Let's see if there are any similar countries. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for supporting me over the years. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.